This conference is brought to you by CallStack, a total software engineering consultancy.
It's his first ever talk. Come on, come on!
Hey everyone, hope you're having a good time. Thank you, Mo, for that intro. So my name is Mazen Chami. I'm a senior software engineer at Infinite Red. Some of you may have heard of us. I live in Durham, North Carolina with my wife and toddler. I'm also fortunate enough to be a co-host of the React Native Radio podcast with Jamin and Robin. I'm also a former football player and coach. So before I move on, just raise your hand. How many of you speak a language other than English as your first language? Okay, I guess it helps that we're in Europe for me to ask that question. So let's start with a little bit of story time. So this is a story about a coffee shop app trying to internationalize their app. Meet our software developer. They're a world traveler, been all over the world. They come in for all hands meeting, and their boss pretty much says, we need to internationalize our app. You're a world traveler. We're going to assign it to you. They get to work right away, plugging it into Google Translate, getting their translations in, opening pull requests. Issues come about. Some of you that speak languages that have long words, like Finnish, I heard, has some crazy words. Designs break, multiple QA rounds, multiple pull requests come in, and eventually, app is ready to go. Friday comes around, they launch their app, close their laptop, go home. What could go wrong? Monday rolls around, they come back in, and there's a lot of negative reviews. Some reviews say text is out of context, doesn't make sense, doesn't fit. Customers aren't happy at the end of the day. This problem is more persistent than we might think of, and hopefully this talk will help you get started in your journey to internationalizing your app and reaching a more global audience. You might be thinking, why does this matter? My app is out there, millions of people use it, it works great, why break it when it's currently working? Well, as of last year, the world's population was 8.1 billion people. Of that, just a small segment, about 1.5 billion were native, either first or second language was English. So there's a lot of non-native English speakers out there. Of that, only 52, well, quite a bit high percentage, 52% of online content is in English. So everything is targeted to English. If we look at Mandarin that has 1.8 billion speakers, it's only 1.3% of online content. So there's a lot of native speakers that we're missing out on. Of this 6.6 billion, 10%, it's a pretty high number, speak right to left languages. So again, another group that we can kind of focus on. Another interesting fact to think about, we're in the mobile app industry. It's thriving, or else we wouldn't be sitting here. There's 6.3 billion smartphones out there. That's about 78% of that population. So we need to make sure we reach that global audience and kind of get things to them. So here are some simple 5 steps. This is a big topic. There's multiple ways to kind of look at it that would help you internationalize your app. We need to, first of all, choose our library of choice. We need to set up our app. We need to maintain our UI and UX. There's some subtle differences that we need to kind of take into account. We also need to get our app translated, and we need to start, release it to the global audience. Before I move on, some of us might know this, but I just want to mention, when I say internationalization, it has the numerum of I-18N, just like how accessibility has A11Y. So we go into step 1. We're going to need to choose our library. When choosing, I know we all have our criteria for choosing our libraries. Here are some features that I think we need to focus on when it comes to specifically internationalizing our library so we can handle it well. We need TypeScript and type safety support, our first line of defense. How many of you have put in your keys and you forget what you name that key and then you get this pretty cool message? Plural support. This is something that we also need to be able to handle. The Mercari app does a good job of it, of updating likes based on the number of likes that they have. Number support. So here's an example of Arabic, Uber. They're using English numbers within an Arabic app. This is an acceptable way to do it in Arabic, but still, kind of take it up to the next level. It would be good to kind of localize the numbers also within your app. Date formatting. I don't know if you can kind of see this, but again, on an Arabic device, it says sale ends in, and there's a bunch of random characters. Those characters kind of change every second. Well, if you were to go to an English device, it says sale ends in. I don't mean to pick, sorry if anyone's from Etsy over here, but sale ends in, and then there's the date time picker kind of counting down. So for Arabic users, I don't think they'll ever know when the sale ends, and they could miss out on the sale. Context support. This is a rare one and also a hard one to find, but we need to be able to handle genders. Raise your hand if you speak a gendered language. Okay, so I think all of you understand where I'm going with this. But this is the LSKD app. I think they're an Australian workout brand. And they use a lot of pronouns within it. So Brie, she, Dean, he. So they're kind of using that within. And we need to be able to handle that as we're speaking. I know, within Arabic, mainly everything is masculine, but you need to be able to handle feminine within the language. And lastly, this one's more, you might think rare, but I think helps level up your UI and UX, but ability to interpolate your strings with React components. So think bolding, italicizing, changing fonts, even putting links within your text part of it. So I don't expect you to be able to read this, but what I did was I went on NPM Trends, found the top 3 packages, and we're going to kind of compare the 3 packages against our predefined features to kind of figure out which one will reach our goal. It'll be from top to bottom. React I18 Next, React Intel, and I18 and JS. So first up, we need to make sure, can we pluralize? So you'll see we have no, so this is React Intel, sorry. You have no messages, you have 1 message, you have 5 messages. So in Arabic, again, لبينك صفر رسالة واحد رسالة. So it's handling the plurals within it. Numbers, we said in Arabic, the Uber app was using the acceptable way to do numbers, but here's a good example of it using the right locales, similar example in currency. Dates and time, handled very well within this. Context, you'll see here, if we pass in just a friend without any context, it's a friend. You give it the male context, a boyfriend, female context, a girlfriend. So like I mentioned earlier, in Arabic, most of the time, most words are in the masculine tense within there. And then complex strings. So you'll see here, we're able to bold, italicize, and even put in a link within our text. So very good start. So let's move on to I18 and JS. Start off not too strong. So we don't have pluralizing of our text. We kind of handle numbers well. We're not putting the comma where it's supposed to be. We said acceptable for Arabic, so we're going to give that an orange. Currency, similar scenario. Date time, nope, not at all. And then context, you'll notice it's the same context across. And complex strings aren't a thing within this package. So moving on to the most popular library, React I18 Next. You'll see pluralizing our text, numbers, currency, date time, context, complex strings. So we have kind of 2 packages that kind of stand out. So just to recap, we know when we talked about TypeScript and type safety support, our packages all had this support, but as things kind of went on, I18 and JS tapered off, so we can give it 3rd place. So we have a tie, right? I live in the US, they don't like ties over there, so I'm going to put my finger on the scale and kind of pick a winner within these packages so we can kind of move on with our steps. So these are like my predefined steps that I'd like to kind of use when evaluating a package, right? So how easy is it to set up React I18 Next? Just yarn add the package, and you're ready to go. Give you a lot of functionality out of the box. React Intel, you kind of had to add some polyfills. They had some requirements for how your translation files were set up. Seemed a little more complex. So we'll give React I18 Next. As far as documentation goes, spoiler, React I18 Next was very simple, straightforward. It was easy to kind of figure things out. I will say, though, React Intel did have a live editor within their documentation, but it was hard to really follow the documentation. You're going to have to jump around across the way. Now, last one, robust functionalities. I'm talking about hooks, higher order components, imperative, declarative APIs, all that kind of fun stuff. They both had that whole functionality, so we have a tie at the end. So I guess we could say the winner is, drum roll, React I-18 next. So we'll move on with React I-18 next. So step 2, we need to now internationalize our app. You're going to see a bunch of code on the screen. Don't worry about it. I'm going to give you access to the repo when we're done. So we need to init our app. I'm going to use Expo CNG flow, continuous native generation. I'm going to name my app Localize Me. We're going to install our dependencies. React I-18 next, I-18 next, which is a package that it depends on, and then Expo localization. We've heard the word Expo a lot recently. They help you get the native locale data from your device. So that's a very important part that we need to make sure we get access to. Next, we'll set up our I18N directory. We'll need to do 2 things. We add in our translations. You'll notice we're using TypeScript rather than JSON. At Infinite Red, we like to kind of use that for more safety, just to make sure that our keys are propagating down within each translation file, so that we're not missing any key in a specific language, and then we get that pesky error that we were talking about earlier. And then we set up our init file. That's there. Our type safety. We always need to make sure we have that set up in there. And then we import our init file within our main layout. Since we're using Expo router, we'll put this in our app layout file. And then next thing, you kind of go into every screen, change the component. You might notice this is just the theme text. I think we saw this earlier in a couple of talks. And there we go. Now, I think some slides are out of order. But OK, so now we need to add some right-to-left support, right? So how do you do this? Well, if you just flip your translations horizontally, you have right-to-left support, right? Not really. So what you need to do, set up your translations. And like I mentioned, Arabic's my first language, so this is what I'm going to kind of focus on here. You'll notice that translation key is there, so everything is going to be handled within this file. And then I add it to my init file, and now Arabic's available within my app. Next, I want to talk about app metadata. This is something that's not done often. Most apps don't translate like your app name or the metadata like giving you permission to access contacts, location, photos, privacy-sensitive stuff. So we want to be able to handle that within our app. So we'll set up our CF bundle display name to give us our name, and then all the other usage description stuff for our info plist. We'll also update our app.json. Again, we're within the Expo ecosystem here to handle this. Once we do this and build, hopefully you can see this in the back, but you'll see on an English device, we have our Localize Me app. On our Arabic device, we have Haddid Makani, which is it in Arabic also. So we need to now maintain our UI and UX for our third step, right? We don't know what's going to happen once we turn on right to left. So you'll see on the left-hand side, we have an Arabic device with Arabic not turned on. Once we turn it on, boom, we're done, right? I wish I could say that was it. You'll notice the text is not aligned right. Our image is cut off. So there's some stuff we need to kind of keep into account. We'll go through those now with some other stuff like animations and icons. So how do we take care of our text? We update our text components to have a writing direction of RTL to make sure we handle that when we're in right to left and our text is aligned. For image component, like we said, it's cut off on the side. We update it by adding our transform scale x -1, and then our image is set up for us. Icon component. This is actually an interesting one, because you'll notice our icons aren't pointing at the text, right? We want to be pointing at the text. Pretty much, you're going to have to change the name of the icon. So in this scenario, we go chevron back versus chevron forward. You could, in theory, do transform, flip it 180 degrees, and you've accomplished it. But you have to also keep in mind that's going to affect your animations down the line. So you'll need to be able to take that into account if you're going to do transforming by degrees at that point also. So once we make this change, it works. So going back, you'll notice our animations don't work, right? We need to make sure we QA our animations. That includes bringing back that -1 value of adding in right to left adjustment of -1 to all your animations, so your animations kind of work correctly, right? Text component, text input, sorry. We're aligned to the left. Everything needs to be shifted over to the right. So we align our text to the right. Within there, we're good to go. So for this one, just a quick question. Do you think if we are setting our margin to the left on a component, we need to switch it to right for a component because we're in right to left? Any thoughts? It depends. It depends on if your content is right to left sensitive, right? If it's right to left sensitive, you want to make sure you're using margin end to apply to the end, or margin start to apply to the beginning of your element. Now, step 4, how do you get your app translated? There's many ways, and we live in the day and age of AI, and we want to leverage AI, and there's also the other side of human translations. So what I'm actually going to show you is the differences within the different types of AI. There are 3 types of AI, and we'll see how they stack up against each other. I'm going to put in a phrase, how do you say apple in Spanish? Going to see how they work. So the first one is AI translation. Think Google Translate. If I plug in my phrase, ¿Cómo se dice manza en inglés? I'm not a Spanish speaker, so hope I said that right. But inglés is English, not Spanish. So that's not right. Next one is called artificial intelligence translation. So think Bing starts doing better. And then our last one, generative AI, Gen AI, everyone's favorite, ChatGPT. It does a really good job of translating it in that sense. So you have that. Now, if you're going through the whole approach of translating your app and trying to be sustainable within all that, I recommend going down the path of human translations. So using companies such as translated.com to kind of get your translations in. The likes of Airbnb, our favorite company out there, IBM, and Google use this company. But again, I want to mention Locais. Locais is also a CMS platform that helps you handle all this from the maintainers of I18 Next and React I18 Next. So this whole section could be a topic on its own. So if you have any questions or thoughts around it, come find me after and we're going to talk about this later. So step 5, which is our last step, let's now release it to the stores. Let's get it on the Google Play Store and the Apple Play Store. And what do we need to do within these steps? Well, in the Google Play Store, if you go down to the translation service section, Google gives you 2 steps. First one is paid human translations. They outsource it to a third-party vendor, promise you it'll be back within 7 days, and then charge you 7 cents US dollars per word within there. Second one is machine translation, no cost. They basically plug it into Google Translation, which we saw did a very good job at it, and kind of give it right back to you. And they kind of handle that within the system. Or you do it yourself. If you're going down the approach of getting the translations for your app, you might as well kind of handle this also on your own. So you would select the languages as you're preparing your store listing, pick the languages that you want to support, and then go through toggling between the 2 languages and adding in the translations for it. Apple App Store. This one gives you one choice, pretty much. When you're preparing your store listing, you select the language, your primary language. So in my case, it's English US. You select other language, and you kind of toggle between them and kind of get that pushed out to the stores. So if I were to tell you take your phones out and take a picture of any slide, it would be this slide. The best practices to kind of give you success within this sphere, context is key. Translations might change the entire context of your app, right? You don't want to be lost in translation within this. Avoid hard coding your strings. Use your translation files to kind of drive the text on the screen. Avoid concatenation. Not every language uses the same order within the words. Arabic does that. Ask Yoda, he never uses the same order. Handle plurals and genders, right? We want to make sure every language, most of us here said we speak a gendered language. We want to make sure we handle those correctly. When possible, collaborate with native speakers. This is a very important one because native speakers have the cultural accuracy of their language and can give you, and make sure you're not out of context within it. And if possible, like we said at the end, outsource it, just to kind of help you be productive and kind of moving forward within your app. So if you want to take a picture of that QR code, that should take you to the repo for the Locais Me app. And just to go over, we mentioned i18n.js, React Intel, React i18 Next, and I also want to bring up Ignite. Ignite is our battle-tested boilerplate that we use at Infinite Red. Ignite is currently translated in English, Arabic, French, Korean, Japanese, and there's a pull request right now which we are actually crowdsourcing to the community to help us with cultural accuracy when it comes to Hindi. And I hope to have a pull request open for Polish soon. I'm holding you to it. And I want to also mention Wojta Nowak, who's here from Expo. He gave a talk at RNAU in 2022, localizing React Native apps from start to end. He covers a whole other aspect of this topic. So, give that talk also a listen so you kind of get the bigger picture also of it all. I also want to thank Infinite Red. Behind every team, we have a team, and this is my team, and I'm forever grateful for everything they've done. I want to thank CallStack for putting on such a good conference, and thank you all for coming out to the conference. And yeah, shukran.
Give it up. Give it up.